I'm Nia, in case you didn't know. And currently we are in the land of Abby Lee Miller, driving from Pittsburgh to Ohio.
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 Represent the heart of it all, where it all began.
So we're gonna do
birthplace.
Where the Ballad of Jimmy James began, was born.
Delicious. Yeah, so we're doing the hometown tour. We got a few, places to be, people to see out here on this trip. But just wanted to do a little introduction before we get the Ohio sign as we drive through.
That's right. Welcome to the Ask a Local Lake Milton edition, hosted by yours truly.
The local in question.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boy.
Lake Milton, you think of this bridge right here, the one that crosses over, and then all the communities are over here on this side. I love driving across that bridge. It's always like, it's the gateway to home in so many ways. These restaurants have all been here, like a lot of them have been here for so long. Kip's opened up when I was in high school. This S&S United Family Foods, like my grandmother used to shop here. This used to be our video store where you used to rent your VHS tapes. Now it's a coin-operated laundry. My Aunt Barbara used to work at this bank. She was a big baller there. People have problems with their accounts. They'd come to complain to her. She would hook them up. This church right here, Lakeview Assembly of God, that's the first time I'd ever been to an evangelical church. And some lady was rolling around speaking in tongues, and the organist was speaking in tongues, and it totally freaked me out. So I never went back there again.
Alright, so where are we right now?
We are at the Point View boat landing in Lake Milton, Ohio. This was not here when I was a kid. Now that it's a state park, they've put in a few extra boat ramps around the lake that never existed before. In the mid-'80s, they shut down the entire lake. They drained it.
Why was the lake drained?
The lake was drained because Youngstown could not afford to repair the dam, so they petitioned the state to make it a state park and make it Ohio's problem rather than Youngstown's problem. Eventually, they worked through all the red tape and everything. It was approved to become a state park, but it still took 2 years to complete the repairs on the dam. In that time, all the families that owned marinas or even some of the lakeside restaurants or what have you, there was just no tourism here. So that's it. They all went under, and their margins were razor thin to begin with. So it was really truthfully, my high school, the last couple of years of my high school were actually a sad time being around here. We're basically at the lower end of the lake right now, and my grandmother's docks are over there, and across this river right here is where my buddy would come and pick me up in his fishing boat, and then we would just go hang out on the lake or whatever. It had a little crappy little horsepower motor or whatever, but sometimes we'd put an inner tube behind it and one of us would tow the other. It was fun. It was a good time. If you knew how to swim, Lake Milton was a place to be. If you didn't know how to swim, you're going to be bored out of your mind as a kid.
Happy to see where you were spawned.
This is it. Literally in this water. The water that spawned me.
It's like Thor, instead of lightning, it's like Milton water.
Grandmother lived for a little while. My grandmother lived there. Everybody started out in that trailer park. It's like such humble roots, man. But my dad was able to break us out and get us. I'll show you our house that we lived in over by the lake when my dad started earning a better living. For right now, though, we're going to head back here to Lake Milton Estates. This is where my grandmother used to live. For me, this is my Disneyland. This is like my happiest place on earth. When I was a kid and we would hit this driveway, we were going to Grandma's house. I was always so jazzed, like just amped. I knew my cousins would be there. I knew the lake was here. There was so much to do. We never were hurting for a fun time here. We had the woods, we had the lake, and we had each other. All right, so this little cemetery right here, the Reichard Farm Cemetery, was a place where my cousins and I, when we were walking through the woods one day screwing off, we actually, I think it was my little brother, stumbled and fell and skinned his knee on one of these grave sites. Pretty cool to find a graveyard from the 1600s.
You literally found this graveyard.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And now it's a historical
it was
area.
accidental. I think it was me and my cousins. I can't take full credit. But yeah, we were always up and down like in these woods.
And now it's a historical area.
Yeah, I'm sure we were swatting each other with sticks when we found it. That's my grandma's old house. It's pretty awesome. So many great memories there. That big garage, that 2-car garage on the other side was not there. I used to have to mow that grass all the time.
When your grandma died, how much was that house listed?
Oh my gosh, under 100K. I know that. If I were to buy it now, it would probably be like $260,000 or $300,000. My grandma did not have a boat. My uncle had a boat, and so he put his boat here, and he and my other uncles would do repairs on the docks as needed, and they were the ones always cooking and barbecuing and drinking beers down here. And my uncle Freddie would take us out on the boat. Aunt Barb would always be yelling at him to slow down, and we'd always be yelling at him to speed up. One of my favorite stories is when my Uncle Mickey was sitting on the dock on his lawn chair, and for whatever reason, one of the legs went off the dock, and he ended up doing like a triple Lindy in the air with a Budweiser in his hand. And everybody laughed because the whole time he was spinning around, he did cartwheels and everything, and he lands in the water and his hand is above the water. And the beer was saved. He saved the beer. It's like the silliest story, but that's just like, that defines Lake Milton. Like, that's what Lake Milton's all about.
How does it feel seeing where your dad is from? You're literally seeing like where he spent ages, as he says it, 0 through 8.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's actually like really pretty, and it's nice to like put a scenery to like all the memories that he shared, especially with like the woods and the houses and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like any story now, I just kind of like get the vibe and the aesthetic, if you will.
Is it funny, like when I talk about, say, when I was like, oh, Youngstown was a hellhole and all that when I was growing up and all that, and then, coming here to the lake, you could see how different the two are.
Yeah, it's really different. It's beautiful here, and I don't doubt that it was just as beautiful when he was growing up. So.
It was awesome. It's still awesome.
Makes
It's
a lot
gorgeous.
of sense.
Craig Beach is the place my father moved us to. We were highfalutin then. We were out of the trailer park, and we made it over here to the other side of the lake. It's where there are a lot more, it's more of a suburban feel in the middle of nowhere. You'll see there are a lot of cottages stacked on top of each other. My old house on Lakewood Avenue.
Okay, so this is the house your family moved into after the trailer.
Yeah, we lived here for like 6 years. So for me, the age 8 to 14. I did not have good memories in that house, to be honest. So it's like out of all the locations, it's my least favorite. My parents got divorced in that house and my dog died. So my best memory is just getting on my bike and being out all day. Like, I had so many friends in this area, and we would all just like run around in packs.
Moving on.
This ditch right here, I still have a scar on my leg from the time I tried to jump a moped over that ditch. I needed like 36 stitches on the outside and 18 on the in. It was right on my shin bone. This area up here is actually where we're getting into like the real deal Craig Beach. This is the Lake Milton Marina over here. This little fire station right here is where my dad used to be a volunteer fireman. He was always into doing cop stuff and fireman stuff. He would ride around with the police at night and just hang out and do ride-alongs and all that. He was super into that kind of stuff. I guess it was his way of finding excitement in a small town. My dad threw me off that thing and taught me how to swim. That's where I learned how to swim. This apartment building right here is where Jimmy James was conceived. That's where I was born. Oh my God. Now we're going to a place called Craig Beach. And this is what like this whole local area is named after. This beach that you're seeing here used to be about just yay big. But if you look behind me, now all of a sudden it stretches all the way down there. It's way nicer, less broken bottles, less bottle caps, a lot nicer than it was when my friends and I would come down here to swim. They have this whole storybook trail now for the kids. Here you have a pavilion. They have bands down here. They have theatrical performances, you name it, city civic events. This is where I first smoked cigarettes. This is where anything bad that I was going to do in my childhood started in this area. You know, we're Gen X, so we would be running around right after school for a couple hours, left to our own devices. So Denise is taking a picture right now of the Dino Sings at Craig Beach sign. Turns out famous singer Dean Martin got his start here. He's actually from Ashtabula, which is not far from here. It's about maybe an hour away, 40 minutes. This church is a church I was raised in, Pricetown United Methodist. My mother sang in the choir here. My grandparents came here every Sunday. My dad came here when he was a kid. He didn't really come here as an adult. He wasn't really feeling the whole church thing on Sunday mornings. But this place right here, I mean, this really crafted a lot of who I am as a person when it comes to the good side of me. When I'm feeling charitable and nice and kind and all that, I can only attribute it to the nice old ladies who would wipe our noses and keep us in line in Sunday school here. I'm going to show you an area here where there are like $700,000 and up houses. I guess Troy Polamalu wanted to live here at some point from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everybody wanted to move here from Cleveland and Youngstown, and all these new houses that you see up here on this side of the lake used to be cottages that you could buy for like $35,000. It really was, this section of Lake Milton was sort of where the poorest of the poor lived. So to see it like this now is pretty crazy. When my grandmother was younger, she would always be at a bar somewhere, and one time she forgot she had to watch me, so my parents had to drive all around the circumference of the lake, and they finally found her back there at Sail Inn, and they were like, "You're supposed to watch little Jimmy," and she was like, "Oh God, right, okay." And so rather than leaving, she just put me up on a bar stool and bought me a Shirley Temple while she finished her beer. Awesome. This is my old elementary school. That VFW hall right there, we would do fish fries on a Friday night. My grandfather would always come and get fried fish, fried shrimp, whatever. That was his drinking hole. That was his watering hole. And we would play baseball on the fields over there. A lot of fireworks shows, and this is exactly the route the parade went on 4th of July, this street right here, because as you'll see, coming up here is City Hall. We're definitely in Trump country, yeah. Hey. This is the center of town in North Jackson, Ohio. This is one half of the school district that I grew up in. So this is where I lived in high school. My house became the de facto party house from junior to senior year because my mother worked midnights, and my stepfather, she was a dispatcher, so she would work at the fire station all night long, and my stepfather would go down and hang out with her all night. So that left me in the house by myself. So my friends knew there was nobody there but me.
And that big field.
Yep, me, that big field. One time I said to my stepfather, I was like, hey, I invited a few people over, and he came home that night to 200 people out in the field. So there were kids from different school districts, everything. It was awesome. So coming up here is my grandma's house. A lot of memories here with my dad's side of the family, all my cousins on that side. When my grandmother passed away, they sold her house, an acre of property, and a garage full of Amish handcrafted furniture, all kinds of things. I think the final sticker price was $65,000 when they auctioned it off. That's my old middle school. It's an elementary school now. You'll see all this play apparatus back here. One time in the football field, Vaughn Smiter pushed me down. I don't think he meant to push me down, but it started like a round of 4 or 5 fights. He and I got into fights like all the time playing football. We were just supposed to be playing tag football, but the first day I went into class muddy, we had gotten into a fight. I punched him, and then we got into another argument a couple weeks later, and he punched me in the mouth so hard I thought all my teeth were gonna fall out. And it just started this like stupid rivalry. He was like the smartest kid in the class, but when he punched me back, it shocked me. He ended up doing better than me though. He went to Stanford for like genetic studies, so Vaughn's doing all right. So this is where the legend of James Gordon began, right here at Jackson Milton High School on the football field. I know I just struck fear into your hearts. The blue jay is a terrifying animal. That's my scoreboard over there. That's where we used to run it up when we weren't getting our heads kicked in. Woo, represent.
Yeah. Woo, woo. How has it been being back, seeing all the spots you grew up in, all the spots you played in, the high school you went to, all of that?
It's bittersweet, I'm not gonna lie, because when I was here at a certain age, I just wanted out, and all I could think about was getting out. And now that I've gotten out and coming back, it's like I can see the beauty for what it is. I wasn't one of those people when I was living here as a youngster. Like I saw through the lack of opportunity here, and I knew it wasn't a place where I could stay and try and build a life. I would have never been successful here in any way, shape, or form. I would have been struggling just like my family. And the only way that I could get out was through academics and just, you know, having that drive for a little bit of opportunity. It was enough to at least get me out of Ohio, and then it took me a while to figure out the rest, obviously, just like every other young person. But being back here now, it's like, oh, I can actually see the lake for what it is, and I don't have to worry about all that other bullshit, you know? It's like I don't have to worry about, you know, the psychology of being in Lake Milton. I can just enjoy Lake Milton, so that part is awesome. It's tough because it's raining right now.
I know. Weather.
So my cousin Heidi called me and told me that the minute we arrived, they issued a tornado warning and there's going to be hail.
Lovely. Welcome to Ohio.
Welcome home, baby. Welcome home. Youngstown State University. Represent. Go Penguins.
It doesn't sound
Yeah,
very
we're the
tough.
Penguins.
It does not sound tough.
Covelli Center, which was not here when I went to school. And in case you didn't know, Kid Rock is probably a big draw here because Ohio is a very red state now. Yeah?
Yes, that is true.
And not the blue state it was when I was growing up.
It's a tornado warning. That's crazy.
There was a mayor here, I think in the early 2000s, where he would basically see all these crack houses that you see that had been here since the 90s. I think they just started taking bulldozers to them, like they had eminent domain on some of the properties to reduce the amount of basically drugs and drug houses in every neighborhood. So that's the park right there. This park we actually had to walk through if we had a night class or what have you. It was in the 90s, and this whole area was like riddled with crack and a lot of crack houses everywhere. So it was not uncommon for students to be packing as they were walking through this park, especially if they had a night class that they had to walk to. If you're not from here, you don't really know, but Jim Tressel is like a god around here. First off, he was the most recent president of Youngstown State University. Before all that, he was a coach at Akron University, and then he was a coach here at Youngstown State. In the 90s, when I was here, he won, I believe, 4 out of 6 years, the Division III national title. One of my best friends that I went to school with was a tight end for that team, and it was just such a thrilling time to be here on campus. It was like finally something good. It had been basically since Boom Boom Mancini back in the 70s had been here as a boxer and doing so well. And we don't all know, but Boom Boom Mancini accidentally, in the ring killed a guy, and that was the end of his career. So Youngstown was kind of hurting for something to cheer for a good long while before Jim Tressel got here. He gave us that in spades. So Jim Tressel's revered around here. Don't ever talk bad about Coach Tressel. Everybody around here has a little joke, and when they ask you where you went to college, you say UCLA. And they say, oh my gosh, University of California, Los Angeles? And you say, no, I went to the university on the corner of Lincoln Avenue. Here it is. All these places over here, like Silvestri Hall and all that, like some of them were here, but for the most part, everything around here was pretty much like a dive bar.
Where did you guys take classes then?
Well, we took classes over there, but we skipped classes over here. So where Jimmy John's is or whatever, that used to be like Inner Circle Pizza. That was a bar. Everything was a bar. Like people just came down here and got drunk in the middle of the afternoon.
Did you guys ever get any schoolwork done?
Never. This was, if you're looking for academia, I would say Youngstown State is not really the place for you. We had a lot of fun in college, what can I say? So this subway you see here was not a subway. This was Pogo's Pub. And this is where on penny draft night, one night, we came in right near closing, and my buddy Paulie Chacon decided that he was just going to throw a rock through somebody's window at the end of the night. And sure enough, the guy whose car he threw the rock through, who he knew, and they had beef, saw him do it. So then we came up to this corner right here. Oh my God, that is Inner Circle Pizza. Holy cow. That's like legit. That's a place. I don't even know if it's open anymore. It looks like it's closed now. That sucks. I'm gonna cry. But anyway, we were parked right here, and we were all fooling around with the radio. We had CDs and all that back then. We had to load in before we started driving, and we look up, and the car is surrounded by 30 people. And my friend Tony just punched the car, and we were screaming at Paulie the whole way home, like, dude. And sure enough, he got rung up for it. He got some sort of misdemeanor for it later. Fun stuff. Yeah, that's my college experience. What about you? What were you doing during that time?
His parents' money was well spent.
It was. To Paulie's credit, he's an accomplished engineer now. An electrical engineer, I believe. Civics, electric, something like that. Paulie's done fine for himself. But, we were all little roughins back then. We were all little dirtbags.
I was studying while you were throwing rocks
You were
in windows.
studying.
Yeah.
You and I would not really have had much of a relationship. I don't think you would have given me a second look back then.
I don't think so. Was there a Barnes & Noble when
There
you were
was-
here?
There was definitely not a Barnes & Noble.
Are you surprised at the growth your college town has had in the past 30 years?
I mean, I'm really happy to see it, to be honest. I think the downtown's looking amazing. It's the area that's a little north of campus. It's a little problematic still, like where my fraternity house was and everything. But the downtown itself looks great.
I'm ending up right back here at the corner restaurant, along with all the trucks and pickup trucks and Jeeps and all that I grew up around. So it's the best way really to end the episode. I really appreciate everybody watching my Ask a Local Lake Milton edition, hometown. It doesn't get any more hometown than this for me. This was my home for a long time, and it's still a great town. If you want to check out Lake Milton, Ohio, you really should. They have room. It's only 1,500 residents. So do your best, get to Ohio, and check out beautiful Lake Milton.
It sound right, boys.